Behind me is what I call the honeycomb only colony. Chris and I pulled this colony out of a tree, I'd guess about a month ago. I'll put the exact date down at the bottom of the video. And in this video, I'm just showing where I've gone back in and been checking on them, and we'll just kind of watch their progress. I'll also include a little video of where I've been feeding some colonies to help them build up for the spring. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Brother B's Bees. All right, we've got something here we've never seen, and that is we've got an external. They don't really have a hive. They have just attached honeycomb to that branch. The problem is it's going to be in single digits within 24 hours. So if we don't do something, we're going to lose them. They're Italians. You see them here? Okay, I'm just going to leave them for tonight in my shop. This is what I use to insulate my hives. Usually there's only a short period that it's really needed. We've got some really cold weather where it's going to be down in single digits. Okay, what we're going to do is move the bees from this temporary nuke over into an insulated nuke, and they should be able to keep it much warmer. The colony is back outside. This is the honeycomb only hive, and they are bringing in pollen. I'm going to do a quick look inside. So they do have some honey here. I've got dry sugar on them. It's been so warm, I may put sugar water on them. Let's see if the queen's laying anything. It's in the 60s today. Let me do this. All right, we do have some capped brood there. See if I see the queen in there anywhere. I do think they need more food, so I'm going to put some sugar water on them. There's the queen right there. wad. It's right there. Well, the encouraging thing is they're still here. They most certainly would not still be alive had we left them, or at least I'm convinced of that. You can see they're bringing in pollen. You've got one worker right there. She's got full pollen baskets. You see the queen. So she is laying a little bit, and they have a little bit of honey, not near enough to suit me. I've given them some pollen patty pieces and some sugar water. This is the honeycomb only colony. About to give them some more sugar water. They continue to do well. I put them a little more sugar water in there. They also have, I think, some pollen patty left. You see a little sugar water I dripped in there. It is going to be 51 today. It's 48 or 49 now. I'm going to do a quick look. The sun is out. It's after lunch. It's around 12:30 or 1 o'clock on February 4th. A few pollen patty remnants here. You can see the worker bees were getting a little from it. These are drying out over here. I'm not sure they're using them, but we are getting a little bit larger wad. I do have a few ants coming in here. So we have to give some attention to that. Got a little moisture right there, so I may cut this back or I may take it off completely. See how we had this in here to keep them warm, but it's created a moisture pocket up in here, and that's not really good. So what I'm going to do is cut that right there and get it out of the way. Let that dry out. So it looks like they're mostly working half of those three little middle frames, I mean. This was a really, really small wad, and of course we lost some in the process of transfer and because of the freezing weather. So it's really pretty amazing they're still with us, but it looks to me like they're gradually growing. I've been grateful for how calm this little colony has been, literally from the time we found them in the tree. But now my experience has been that the little bitty colonies are usually much calmer than the big ones. They got a little more active as I was doing some trimming on this Reflectix. So I cut it back so there can be air access to these sections to dry them out. I did the same thing on the other end. You can see how it's getting a little moisture in there, and I really don't want that. So they haven't cut through these yet, so that means they're still working on those. Once they get all those chunks of frame that I put in there connected, they'll chew through this. It's looking to me like I've got growth. I've got more and more bees in here. There, if you can tell. Of course, it's in the evening, and I think last time may have been during the day. But I've got pretty good coverage on these three frames up to right in this area. So I think they've doubled in size in the last it's probably 6 weeks now since we pulled them out of the tree. I notice they've eaten most of the pollen patties I put in there. When we were in here 4 or 5 days ago, it was pretty wet right up in here, and we trimmed this back. It is drying out, so it's making progress. I'm encouraged by that. Put them some fresh pollen patty in there. And I've got some sugar water. I'll fill that back up. Now, what I do when I've got a lot of dry sugar left and we're getting into the winter is I start mixing wet sugar in with it, and I find that they just eat it faster instead of digging all that out. That seems to work. There were just a few in here 4 days ago. There's a lot in here now. Of course, I put some wet sugar with this dry sugar. I'll put a little more in here. That seems to help them consume this dry sugar faster. So I had some dry sugar left in here. It was caked up like it normally does. So I just moved it to the edges, mixed in some wet sugar, and you can see it's already kind of absorbing it. And as they eat this wet sugar and I add more, it'll eventually take care of what was left of the dry sugar cakes. I could actually see right in there they've got honey in these upper frames, at least some of them anyway. I'm just putting some pollen patties in there for them. Just to give them a little energy, kickstart them this spring. Bucket of pollen patty mix, so I just get chunks out, put in there for them. See, they still had a decent amount of dry sugar in there. The reason I didn't go ahead and swap them to wet sugar is because there were so many bees in there. What I did is I took pollen patties and dipped them in the sugar water and put them in there. So I'll give them a little time to kind of finish up that sugar, and then I'll swap them over to full sugar water. Put pollen patties on the inside. They like those pollen patties dipped in sugar water. I am at the swarm trap hive is what I call it. But when I was in here 4 days ago, they still had some dry sugar left. I added these pollen patty pieces dipped in sugar water, and you can see they're almost completely gone. So to me, that's a sign that it's time to swap them over to sugar water. This one with pollen patties dipped in sugar water is the colony I caught in my swarm box over there. Today we've checked in. I've kind of tried to show you the progress of the honeycomb only hive over the last 6 weeks. You've also seen some of what I'm doing to feed colonies as they're ramping up for the spring. I find that if I can give them a little extra food in the spring, then they grow faster, I can make more splits, we get more honey, etc. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Brother Bee's Bees.